Thank you. This is the meeting for the RM of Springfield. Today's date is July the 8th of 2025. It's a committee of the whole, starting at exactly 1 p.m. I'm Mayor Patrick Therrien. All of council is present. Councillor and Deputy Mayor Glenn Fuel to my right, in a descending order, Councillor Kaczynski, Councillor Miller, and Councillor Warren. Calling the meeting to order. Could I get a mover and a seconder, sorry, for the approval of the agenda? Councillors Warren and Kaczynski. Any changes or additions to the agenda? And I see none. If I get a show of hands of those in support. That is unanimous, so carried. Then we'll go to approval of the minutes, item 4 on the agenda. Can I get a mover and seconder as well, please? Councillor Fuel and Warren. Any additions or errors in the minutes and points to be brought up? I see none. Can I get a show of hands of those in support of the approval of the agenda, item 4? That is unanimous and so carried. We're a little bit early there, Amy and Oliver, but if you guys are ready, if you'd like to come to the front there.
You got this.
Hello, Springfield Council. My name is Oliver, and I want to talk a little about being a Special Olympics athlete. I've been a Special Olympics athlete since I was 4 years old. It has taught me social skills, sportsmanship, leadership, given me confidence, and I have created lifelong friendships. I was recently chosen to be the Special Olympics Youth Ambassador for Manitoba. I very much enjoyed my time raising awareness for all Special Olympics athletes. I got to be on the news and did a couple of appearances at a few local stores to raise even more money, one of which was Kildare Safeway that happens to have a manager and staff member from Oakbank. The Special Olympics program I attend in Transcona is called Fundamentals, where we learn all sorts of different sports. There are 3 other kids from Springfield that also attend with me. I'm sure that they are okay with me speaking for them and saying that we all very much appreciate your very generous donation. Every $2 donated is equal to 1 day of activities for a Special Olympics athlete. Your donation will provide 50 days for activities like for an athlete like me. Thank you for being a part of our campaign and helping spread awareness. Your efforts helped us break a record in this campaign for Canada, and we are so grateful. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Oliver. Any questions from council at all? Did a great job, Oliver. Exceptional job.
I just wanted to give you guys some bracelets and flags if you would like them. Just give them to me.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you. Thank you, Oliver. Just for full transparency, Oliver and Amy are my next door neighbor. I've known Oliver since he was just a baby, so he's done very well. He's a big boy. All right, thank you very much there, Oliver and Amy. It was very informational, and we'll have our flags out here. Okay, then we'll get to new business there. Item 6.1, we'll go for the approach bylaw there. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Miller, or not Miller, sorry, Warren and Fuel. Yeah. More seconder though. More seconder.
Afternoon, Council. I believe the first one was the approach bylaw.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time in the works. We think we've kind of got to a final draft here. So I know there's a bit to read through, but I'm not sure if Council had a chance yet to read through it. If you got any questions or comments, but believe we are close to moving this through for final approvals. So. This is something that we've worked on as a team with other departments. It was very helpful, so I'd like to thank all the other departments and everybody that helped us on this.
Any questions from council in regards to this? Councillor Miller and Fuel next.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for drafting this to where it's to be. I have one question. It has to do and pertain to the penalty section and one of the repercussions of non-compliance. And of course, it's important to have those kinds of instruments in a document like this. But any person found guilty of an offense under this bylaw shall be subject to a penalty of $500 per day that offense continues until compliance is achieved. I know legislation a little bit, and generally there's a top amount. In other words, in the legislation I deal with specifically, penalties can be up to, $50,000 on a first offense and so on. So I just find that the $500 per day might be onerous to some people. And I believe strongly in a strong armed effort to make people comply. But if it goes, beyond say 30 days or something like that, you're looking at thousands of dollars. This person may just say, to heck with it. I just don't even have the ability to pay for it. So I think it's important to have that financial impact in that instrument, but I'm not sure that we have to really penalize them to the death of their bank account. I'm not sure. So my question is, have you compared that to other bylaws in other communities, and is it consistent or is it different in this specific component?
Well, I'd say that it's fairly consistent, maybe not directly to an approach bylaw. I'd have to double check on that. I believe there is leniency within the penalties if we seen some action that they're taking course to remedy the problem, then of course we'd work with the individuals. I think we have to have something complete and solid in the bylaw that gives us that teeth, because it might not be the case of something very simple that's a quick and easy fix. It could be something that's tens of thousands or even more, and that's what we want to hold them to on those extreme ones. So I think that's the reasoning behind some of that, the severity of that penalty.
And I'm not going to be a stickler on this. I'm not going to hold up this piece of bylaw, but I'm just saying a maximum fine of X dollars might have been maybe more consistent to what provincial legislation is in terms of penalties. But again, I'm just
definitely look into it and just see if it's, if that's the direction of council, we can certainly put a top max to it. I'd hate to hold us, just for an example, we said maximum $5,000, but an individual or a company did damage of $50,000-$60,000, we're on the hook for the remainder.
And that's why I'm giving you leniency on this to see if it will work, to give it a trial and error. So if we have major concerns or people are really financially have a hardship, then maybe we have to revisit it. But
Sure.
I'm okay with your justification. Thank you.
Sure.
Councillor Fuel and then our CEO.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that I'm fine with this. I think, again, to me, it's, again, without going into details of the bylaw, if somebody's put an approach in and they didn't get approval of it, I believe RM will work with these people to get it out. And all of a sudden, if they start saying no, well, then there becomes an issue, and that's when the fine would start taking place. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's typically how we approach most every situation like that. However, nowadays, if you don't have it in a bylaw, you got nothing really to fall back on.
Yeah.
So this is really kind of, that's the way I look at it, but our approach is always to work with the individuals firsthand, so.
Okay, thank you.
CEO.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think there's a note on the draft bylaw still that SPS is going to be checking for final compliance with our Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Act bylaw. And that list of offenses and penalties, I think there's 9 of them. Each one would probably put into a schedule with a corresponding fine against those, and those would not be per day. So I think this offenses and penalties, it's just, we're still working on that aspect of it, but that's the rest of the bylaw that we're looking for input from council on.
Sorry, Andy, I'll just, I would think that we should have a section for businesses. $500 a day for a business, depending on the size, of course, is not a lot, but the damage that could result of them having a illegal culvert or doing something there could be on the taxpayers for a huge amount of money, especially if it takes out the roads and so on like that. So $500 per day, given what the CEO says, it would be something that we can work with there. But if there is an individual there, if it's an individual person there, this to say, Mr. Terrian put in a culvert in front of his house, he did something to it, and he's not taking care of it there. $500 a day just wouldn't work. If it's an individual, maybe I don't know, $100 a day or something like that. So if we had 2 sections, one for a business, $500 per day, I think they'll grasp that. And if it's an individual, $100 for a day or whatever that might be, a little bit more sensitive, like Councillor Miller was saying, to the individual and the businesses and so on.
Yeah, again, I think throughout the final process on the penalty, we can look at that. My hesitation on something like that is, what's the difference between a company and a individual? Individual can do just as much damage in a small amount of time.
Yeah, you're right.
So just, that would be our, again, I think, we have the extreme in there, but we also have the internal to work with the individuals, and if we have to go to the extreme, then we've got that, rather than not have to go back and then readjust. So, but I'll talk with SPS in the final for that section for sure.
Okay. Any other question? Oh, Councillor Kaczynski.
Thank you, Mayor. One question I have, the designated officer. Who we gonna assign as a designated officer in our municipality? That's always question, because I don't know who wanna do the dirty work.
Well, I mean, I guess depending in the situation, it would most likely be somebody out of Public Works. Myself, I think I'm one of the designated officers. It's not always a nice part of it, but good part about that too is I can also delegate. So either way, it needs to be addressed. It's not the nicest thing that we have to do. Again, our approach is we always try to work with the individual for remedy. Most of the time it works. So I got no issues with being designated officer or assigning it to somebody else with the experience and knowledge of what we're dealing with. So
With the construction,
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I would say that our penalties are kind of harsh. I hope they work, because, that might be 30 days, $500 a day. That's, a lot of money for a lot of people. So, so I wouldn't want to, take the food away from anybody in this municipality. So,
No, and that's not our intent.
yeah.
Certainly not our intent.
So we have to be reasonable, with our residents. So that's all.
Fair enough.
Ask for it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Any other questions? Then maybe we could just move on to the drainage policy.
So again, this one's a policy. Been in the works for quite some time, again, through different departments and some agencies. We've got it down to what we think is a good policy that's fair and with some options for residents and or the agricultural side of the works to work within this policy. We worked with Conservation District on this. They have a copy of it. I don't believe they had any real concerns or comments, but again, we brought it back after a few drafts. I think this is our probably number 6 now that we've kind of tweaked it all and we got our permits in there. Actually, the permit is not part of the schedules. That's just something separate you get from the planning department. But, so again, if there's any questions or comments on this policy.
I got none. I don't see any as here as well, so I think it's great. I think it's, like I say, it's a 6th draft, and I think we got it here. In my opinion, I went through it and I didn't see any issues there.
Yeah, there's some pretty heavy technical stuff in there at the back end, but that's
Yeah.
going to follow through for our developers as well as subdivisions, what have you. So now we have a standard for them to follow. So it's less questions for them. They know what they're getting into. So
Yeah. And then we move on to 6.3, engine retarder brakes and noise bylaw. That would be you, would it?
yeah.
Dan?
So under our traffic bylaw right now, I don't believe we have. I don't think we recognize it within the bylaw for some, if not all, of our signs that we've had put up through the years. So there's a couple ways we can, and there's been a few new requests for some signs that I'm working on, and with the criteria, some of the criteria back from MTI is that you need to have this worded within your bylaws. So we can go 2 ways about it. So it's just an update to the bylaw. That's not that there's some language in there that I could put forth. We can bring it back to a committee of a whole meeting and see what kind of language we want to put in there. But the language can refer to specific, so a schedule with maps showing where all our signs are, or you can go to the next extreme, which would be to blanket the whole municipality with no engine retarder brakes. That has been done in other municipalities. So I was talking with DOT. They do see this in other municipalities. It's not, wouldn't say it's the priority option that people run, but those, I just want to let council know those are 2 options you can go with. And then I guess you would have to sign it accordingly coming into all your points of access into the RM.
See, I guess the one concern area is Dugald. I know we had a complaint last year, I think, and then another one this year. Was it Dugald, Councillor Warren?
Anola.
Anola.
It was
Okay.
Anola.
Anola, but last year was in Dugald there. I find that if we get so many signs that are out there, which is fine because people have to be dictated by the signs, the speed, of course. The engine retarder there, like to do the entire RM, I think that one option, whatever that is, A or B that you were referring to, just in the hotbeds, Anola and Dugald, I think are the ones that would be better, I think.
Well, right now there's signs coming in to Oakbank, Dugald, and Anola. The new requests were for 302. And there was one more request on 207 for northbound traffic coming up 213. And the one coming down on 213 to 207, which that one there, you're coming down a hill. I think those guys are loaded fully. I don't know if I would myself from the department would recommend that one, but there's a reason for those exhaust brakes. But so right now we're looking at 2 locations right now. So 302 and 207.
Okay.
So before we can get approval on them, even though I guess they've maybe they're cracking down on their criteria because we've erected these signs in all the other communities in the past without, other than resolution, not having to have it within our bylaw, but it's probably proper to have it within the bylaw. So again, you got something to fall back on. If you do get challenged on it, then so So I'll just, if I don't need an answer today, but if we get back to Colleen or let me know if we want a blanket or do you want just individual map showing where all the locations are, and then we can always set that as a schedule within the traffic bylaw, and we can update that schedule by resolution at any time instead of bringing the whole bylaw back out to question.
Is there a consensus on council here? Blanketed or the two options that Blaine was saying there?
I'm fine with the locations. I think, again, to do the whole municipality, I don't think is needed at this time. I've only out of state for 11 years that I've been on council. I think 207 is really on this end. That's been an issue, and then 302. So we are talking only two more locations.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Councilor Warren?
I would agree with just having the location, only because if you, like, for sure, 213 and 207, because you've got the rolling hill, basically from the gravel pits. I mean, you need that edge and retard. But like by 302, yeah, we have gravel pits, but it's more or less a flat surface. So you've got to look at the gravel trucks, and well, now also the grain trucks, if they're full going through towns and whatnot. I think some of the signs that I've seen, maybe not the speed, well, the distance. The distance might be wrong on those signs.
Well, the distance is decided by MTI.
Yeah.
They have their criteria based on, I guess, the area, the residents, how many residents, what the braking distance is, so on and so forth.
So could I, well, would MTI share that with, like, so I could read it?
The criteria, I can ask them for it, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Councilors Kaczynski and Miller, your thoughts?
Okay. Then I'll put wording forward for whenever cow meeting, or are we just gonna bring the?
Council meeting schedule right now, so it wouldn't be till early August.
Yeah, I'll put the wording together forward.
Did you have anything to say, Councilor Miller?
No, I'm in agreement to consensus wise.
Okay, thank you. And if we can go to 6.4, draft abandoned and derelict vehicle.
Okay, so this bylaw was drafted in conjunction with our SPS, Springfield Police Service. They receive over 100 calls a year regarding abandoned and derelict vehicles. Of late, we're having particular problems in the industrial area with parked cars on roads that are making it unsafe. So we were hoping to get this bylaw implemented sooner rather than later so that we can do some enforcement in that area particularly. When council last saw it, there was only one concern to do with the 72 hours. So we've actually removed that condition in this draft so that it can be removed immediately, but ultimately it'll be at the discretion of the designated officer how they deal with that. So typically they will try to contact the owner to see why it's there, and if there's a good reason, they'll just tape it and know that it's got a timeline to be moved. So that is the only change that was made since council's received it last.
I saw that. Any other questions or comments from council with regards to this? I think it's taken in our issues, and I think it's ready to go. Unless there's other questions from council, and I see none, then I think we're ready for that. The next step. If we can go to the unsightly bylaw, that's 6.5 on the agenda.
Okay, unsightly bylaw was also, we worked with SPS just to ensure that our bylaws are compliant with our Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Act process. There's been a couple changes. We did remove, there was a comment about fires. So we removed that because that is dealt with through our fire bylaws. The other change that we're proposing is now that we've kind of proposed this abandoned vehicle bylaw, we can remove, there was a portion in the unsightly that dealt with the outdoor storage of motor vehicles on and derelict vehicles on private property. So we want to remove that from the unsightly and have that one bylaw to do with derelict and abandoned, specifically deal with vehicles.
No. Comments, questions? I see none. Again, I think this is ready to go as well. Then we'll get to 6.6. The last was, I was going to say the last one before we go into a closed meeting, but it's not. We'll get to flag policy discussions.
Okay, there's two documents attached. So the first document is our current flag policy. That one was approved and revised back in 2023. And then the second is a draft flag policy that staff were working on with amendments to do with third-party requests for flying flags. And I know council's, been discussing it, and we've seen it on social media. Obviously, it's been a big discussion in the community. So I was asked to add this just onto COW for council discussion. I think our current flag policy follows provincial and federal guidelines, and it right now it's doing the job for us without any further amendments. So just wanted to run this by council to get your feelings on whether you wanted to amend it all or keep our current flag policy as is.
Open it up for discussion. Councillor Fuel.
Yeah, I'm good with leaving it as the current policy. I just, again, it leaves everything with the three main flags, and I'm good with that. And that way, at least no organization feels they're left out. If one organization comes with a flag, then another organization comes, and I guess in the end of it all is where does it end, and how do you satisfy everybody? So I think if we stick with the three flags, that's the best, and then go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. There's Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had a number of people actually contact me directly about this flag policy, and there's some concerns, although I know there may not be consensus on council to move forward, but I do want to share them because I think it's important. And I did do my own independent research on flag policies across Canada and parts of the United States. And for the most part, I think 95% of it is pretty consistent to, we don't have to recreate the wheel, and most of it is there. But I'll share with you one particular one from in Ontario, the municipality of Chatham, Kent. It says requests will not be approved where the flag flying relates to political parties and political organizations, which we have, religious organizations, or events and celebrations. That's consistent. This next one is celebrations, campaigns, or events with no direct relationship to the municipality of, in this case, it would be Springfield, and so on. So beyond that, it's the councils in many cases that approve the flag. In this particular case, I'm not sure that it's council that approves it. In fact, I would ask the question to our CEO, who does approve the placing of a flag and for how long? Whose responsibility? Because council in generality tends to have that kind of responsibility, but when you take it out of their hands, I can't answer. In other words, people have asked me who placed this flag or that flag, and I can't frankly answer that. What I do know, my answer is that council didn't. I know we have a policy and that's being adhered to, but it's not the elected individuals who have any influence on that. So if you could help me with that, and then I have a little bit of a follow-up, please.
Yeah, so council ultimately sets the policy, and then it's staff that follow that policy for the direction. So right now, lowering the flags were directed prior to lowering by myself, just to ensure we were following the policy. I know there was kind of one-offs that decisions were made without council approval, which probably shouldn't have been the case. And it should have been coming for ultimately a resolution from council to determine that. And that's why in March we started working on these amendments to deal with the multiple requests that staff were receiving and how to deal with those. So this amendment would have kind of dealt with third-party requests. And the other change that we wanted to look at is that right now, if an event falls on a weekend, staff are coming in on the weekend, and we'd prefer to raise or lower on working days. So that might be one change that we still want to come forward with, but I don't think we're interested in looking at third-party rules being included any longer.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that response. In addition to a number of individual concerns that were raised, I don't want to get into too much of the weeds of because people have strong biases for and against a particular flag. I mean, we can go down this trail forever, and I don't think we'd ever win because every community has these challenges, right? So I won't maybe go down that, but what I will share with you is actually, if I may, Dr. Page also submitted quite an extensive set of potential improvements and or suggestions for improving this policy. And I know that because he's not a delegation, and I know because we don't have question period or anything of the sort, the public has very limited and explicit restrictions on what they provide. But what I would like to do with his permission is submit his comments to council and to administration for review, because I could read them verbatim, but he's got such very detailed information that's very, very helpful and very useful that it would take probably a fair bit of time. So with the permission of council and or Dr. Page, those comments, I'm not sure if you could directly forward them to council and administration for further review, if that's the decorum of the council. And again, his comments are not a negative, and they're not undermining the general thrust of the policy. In fact, I think they enhance, and I think they would be well received.
Well, I got no issue with additional information, but I think let's just pretend that we never had this additional information there. Are we prepared as council now just to keep it with the our current flag policy there, or the draft amendments? I think I'm speaking for Councillor Fuel. He just wants to leave it at the flag policy now, and I'm for that. I wonder if we can just get see what council thinks with regards to just keeping it at the flag policy now. Go ahead, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if that's even fair to Councillor Fuel or Warren, for the simple reason they haven't seen his comments, and I think there's significant substance to them and there's value to it. Again, it's not tearing it apart. It's not. It's actually enhancing it and giving us a strong ability to move forward in a positive direction, a positive light. But so I think it would be unfair for Councillor Fuel and Warren, and even Councillor Kaczynski to make comment on something they haven't seen. And that's my frustration of this council, is we don't even give the public the ability to speak to us anymore. So this is where I say that direction has really eliminated the public input, and I'm always against that.
Okay, CEO, and then I guess we can conclude it from there.
Yeah, so I think the current flag policy is working for what we need now, but I think any suggestions we can review and bring this back at a later date. I'll just remind the public that there is submit your comments online for agenda items, so that could have been done through the website that way, or just emailed directly to us. So with the flag policy, we'll always kind of want to look at those suggestions and make sure they're not going against any federal or provincial rules regarding the flag. So it would take some staff time to review all the suggestions, and then we could bring it back to council in the future.
Everybody in agreement with that? Councillor Miller?
Yeah, and I'm supportive to that. But what I would encourage administration to do is to make it broader known to the community that they can provide input on these kinds of important bylaws and policies. For the simple reason, I can assure you, if I go to my neighbor tonight, he will have not heard about this, and he may or may not have wanted to provide input. But if I even go broader in my community in Ward 3, I can assure you that there would be a lot of input from our community. But because there's really no mechanism from me to do that, I have my own website and things that I try to broadcast to our community members. But that doesn't reach everyone as well. So what I'm trying to say is that the RM itself should really strengthen our opportunity to encourage and solicit input from the community, even broader, because it's really, we're here to serve the community, and we want to be seen to be in that light as well. Thank you.
Okay, then what we'll do is we'll bring it back to a committee of a whole in the future. We'll have a chance to review that in that time. Then if we can go to the last one, 6.7, that's a trading post discussion.
Councillor Warren added this
Well,
to
it's
the
yours.
agenda.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple of residents contact me about the trading post being at Hillside, and they were interested in knowing if council would ever think of having a trading post at Oakwood. Now, we've had some issues with the trading post in the recent at Hillside with unusable things being put in there or things that shouldn't be put in there. I think I know there's a cost associated with this. I know it's staff time. I know it's like another poll structure. I know that. I think what has to happen, I think, is that residents of Springfield need to understand that we have 2 transfer stations and they are open to everybody. Like if Hillside is closed one day, Oakwood is open on another day. Like it's not just because you're in the west or other area that you can't go to the other one that's in the east. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People have to, like, there's a cost associated with everything. If we could look at that, maybe not right now, but in the future, if there ever is an opportunity where we can put another trading post, I would be for it, except that right now I can put my stuff in a vehicle and drive to Hillside and put it there because I have a truck. So anybody else want to contribute to this discussion?
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Warren. I think I would be very much embracing your proposition. In fact, I think it's a very valuable tool. I've gone to the trading post at Hillside and not only dropped stuff off, but taken stuff. So it's repurposing, and instead of chucking stuff, people, as you know, get value out of this. I don't think we have a lot of scrappers. I mean, maybe our administration can determine that if there's people that go and exploit that, but you're going to have that, I guess, regardless. But I would absolutely, the only thing I would suggest is if we could have, as you noted, there are costs associated with it, and if the administration could come back to us and give us a guesstimate or an estimate of what it would take to implement something at Oakwood going forward at whatever date, that would be helpful to council. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Miller's comments. Any other questions?
Yes, I would encourage everybody that if they putting books in there, they should pack a little bit better, because you go there, you want to get some books and they all wet because they're exposed to the elements. So if people could pack them, in the plastic or something like this, because I go quite a bit if I'm there and I'm looking to find some interesting books. So, you see the good book, but then it's wet and you leave behind. Thank you.
RCO.
So I just want to point out that we're having issues with things like books and mattresses and soft items that are not supposed to be brought there. Anything that can get wet or damaged shouldn't be brought there. Books, obviously, I would take them to the library and see if they would take any donations, because I know they have a book sale at the end of the year sometimes. We were lucky with Hillside. It's just a very plain structure. We couldn't put sides on it and make it more sheltered, because then it required electrical for lights, and the costs were increasing, and we did receive a grant for that structure. It does require manpower. Right now, Oakwood only has 1 employee. It would require 2 for sure if we were to put up a trading post there, whereas Hillside has 4 more employees, so they're able to do that extra work associated with it. But yeah, I can definitely talk to the manager of water and waste and see if he can give us an approximate for future expansion of a trading post at Oakwood, but we don't see the traffic there like we do at Hillside, so.
Okay, then that's the last item on there before we go into closed meeting. If I get a mover and a seconder for going into closed meeting for land sale requests and requests for purchase payroll and a legal matter. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Kaczynski and Fuel. Show of hands to go into a closed meeting. That is unanimous and carried. At this point here, we'll have to clear the chambers and we'll go into a closed meeting at 1:41 p.m.
Recording stopped.
Yep.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. It's 2:12. We're coming out of closed meeting there. Can I get a mover and a seconder to come out of the closed meeting? Miller and Warren. And the matters were discussed, and at this point here, I'm prepared to go to adjournment. Can I get a mover and a seconder for an adjournment, please? Terrian and Warren. Then show of hands to go into adjournment. As unanimous and is carried.
Mr. Mayor, can we announce that to the public that on July 15 we're gonna discuss
That was in
the
camera.
money?
We can't discuss that in camera.
Well, you can discuss what that matter gonna be put to the council meeting on
This
that
is
day.
that what we discussed in camera. What can we say with regards to that? We're in adjournment anyways.
Recording stopped.
Okay.